Week 13 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I would start this week. The first kicker, Ka'im Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. Fairbairn, he came back from the quad injury last week. He didn't disappoint with a nice ball game with 12 fantasy points. So this week, a matchup at the Indianapolis Colts. Indoor game, always a plus for any kicker. And this offense stalls out a whole lot all season long, where Fairbairn's been one of the best kickers in all fantasy football. So I think Fairbairn, once again, goes out there. He's going to get his opportunities, and I know they got to put points on the board. Even though their top-rated defense in the league is Houston, they're still going to have to score, and Fairbairn could be a big part of it. Next kicker, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Harrison Butker, he had a big game in last week's game, 16 fantasy points in the victory versus the Indianapolis Colts. And this week, a great matchup at the Dallas Cowboys that give up the 7th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So the last few weeks for Butker, week 9 at Buffalo 8. Week 11 at the Broncos 5, and week 12, like I said, versus the Indianapolis Colts, 16 fantasy points. So this week at the Cowboys, their defense has definitely improved with the trades. Logan Wilson and obviously Quinnen Williams on the defensive line, and also Overshown returning and Malik Hooker to the lineup. But still, they're going to give up their points as Dallas. Last week, they gave up 21 right away to the Eagles before the defense clamped down, and I think in this one on Thanksgiving, a short week as well, Harrison Butker and this Chief offense will get in the red zone early and often, and definitely a kicker to start this week. The next kicker, Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow returning to the lineup, and I thought Joe Flacco did a great job filling in for Burrow. And now the last 3 out of 5 weeks, McPherson's been kicking the football well, and a great matchup at Baltimore, who gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So Money Mac, we know he's got a long distance boot. He's been that good since he came out a few seasons ago as a rookie in the NFL draft. And also he hit a 63-yarder in last week's ball game versus the Patriots, a career high. Week 7 versus Pittsburgh 17. Week 8 versus the Jets 8. Week 9 versus the Bears 11. Week 11 at the Steelers 8. And Week 12 versus New England 12 fantasy points. So like I said, this week, this could be a high-scoring game. Another Thursday ball game where a lot of offense is usually going on. And we know throughout the years between Baltimore and Cincinnati, a lot of offensive, high-scoring games they win. So this week, McPherson, definitely a good start. Next kicker, staying in the same game, Tyler Loop of the Baltimore Ravens. Another good game in Week 12 versus the Jets, 11 fantasy points. So Loop now, 3 games in a row, double-digit fantasy points. This offense has obviously improved over the last few weeks since Lamar returned to the lineup Week 9 at the Miami Dolphins. And Loop, he's got a big boot. Justin Tucker, he was a great kicker for this Raven team, but obviously off the field issues, they had to cut him loose. And Loop coming in as a rookie has been great. So this week in a potential high-scoring game, like I said, and a Cincinnati Bengal defense that can't stop anyone, where I believe Baltimore will be in the red zone early and often. I could see a 4th game in a row with double-digit fantasy points for Tyler Loop, where he's coming off in Week 10 in Minnesota 14, Week 11 in Cleveland 12, and Week 12 versus the Jets 11. So this week, once again, it wouldn't be surprising if he does it. And the final kicker I would start is Cam Little of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cam Little, one of the better boots in all pro football, obviously set the NFL record a few weeks ago with a 68-yard field goal. Was Cam Little, and we saw in preseason he had a 70-yarder. So this Jacksonville offense, they stall out at times. And Cam Little, pretty much, if you're within the 35-40, they're going to trot him out there for a field goal attempt. But the last 3 out of 4 games, he's had double-digit fantasy points. Week 9 at Vegas 15, where he hit that 68-yarder. Week 10 at Houston 13. Week 11 versus the Chargers 5. And Week 12 at the Cardinals 13 fantasy points. So this week, a good matchup at the Tennessee Titans. They give up points, 11th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And like I said, Cam Little, he's showing off the distance of late and put points on the board, and he's been one of the better kickers in fantasy football the last month of the season. So that's a few kickers I would start for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.